So my name is Jeremy Evas. I work in the Welsh Government. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Welsh language technology, but I'm going to concentrate on the technology, not the Welsh. Hopefully, we'll be able to learn a few things from each other and share some of the experiences to increase the use of Irish and Welsh through technology, and vice versa to increase the use of technology through the medium of Irish and Welsh. I'm going to talk a bit about that. I'm going to talk a bit about behavioral theory as applied to human computer interaction in bilinguals. And if you're still awake, then I'm going to put out a plea for a bit of criticality of thought in language policy and planning. And that's the end of the jargon. Really, there is a lot of low hanging fruit we can use. We can do a lot of things together. And here comes what I'm going to say. Bear in mind, please, that I cannot see you any longer. So if you need to talk to me, then please do so with a voice. We do love a plan in the Welsh Government. We published this plan in 2018, our Welsh Language Technology Action Plan. The proof of the plan is not in the planning. The proof of the plan is in either the outputs that come out of it, or maybe not even that. And maybe that's linked to the criticality of thought I'd like us all to discuss. We've created a lot of things, but the proof of the plan is in the impact it has on Welsh speakers' lives. I'm going to talk a little bit about motor neuron disease and Welsh speakers later, and how this ties into that really, really absolutely necessary use case. But before that, a bit of strategic context. We have a plan, another plan, for 1 million Welsh speakers, and to double the percentage of us who use Welsh every day by 2050 from 10 to 20% of the population. Three themes: increasing the number of Welsh speakers, increasing the use, and that's where technology can come in, and it definitely comes into the third theme creating favourable conditions. So when we published the plan, we concentrated on three things: speech technology, translation automation to help suitably qualified human translators, and conversation artificial intelligence. And I'll be honest with you, I was against putting the third one in because I thought, nah, that'll never catch on. But dear me, look at what's happened over the last year and a half. And what does that mean for us? And I've got a bit about that later. So the philosophy of the plan is where the Welsh Government pays, we pay once Wales, we pay once to the world, and we give it away in a suitably permissive license. We give it to Microsoft, we'd give it to Apple, we give it to anyone so they can use and reuse it. Because, as I said, the proof of the plan is not in the planning, it's in organizations, companies of various different sizes, from enterprise multinationals like Microsoft, embedding their technologies, embedding our components into their technologies, to the startup over in Carmarthen that wants to do a little bit with speech recognition and artificial intelligence in Welsh. None of this is worth anything unless it gets used or embedded. We're not in the business really of producing components for end users in the home, unless they're very technical. We work with companies to get it embedded, and I'll tell you how we do that. So it's a once Wales model. We pay, we give it away. Everyone else can reuse it. What's the story so far? Well, that's the cover from the 2020 Technology Progress Report. We published one at the end of last year as well. And I don't expect you to read this, and I'm not going to talk about it all. There's a lot of work that's gone on, and I think what we found is that when we work with different organizations, one of our main work packages is to upskill them because they don't understand what bilingualism means in technology. Yes, you can have software in German, and you can have it in English, and you can have it in Welsh. You can't have it in English and Welsh at the same time, and that's something I'd like you to devote a bit of thought to. How do spell checkers auto detect whether you're typing in English, then the next sentence you're typing in Irish? That is something we're going through, and we have a series of, well, about 30 or 40 formal feature requests into Microsoft to try and get these organizations to understand what using two languages means at once, or in the same day, or in the same meeting, or in the same conference like we are in today. And I think they've long grasped regional unilingualism for technology, but the next sort of discursive shift is that two languages at once. So ignore this slide because I'm going to talk about some of the things that's on it in the rest of the presentation. We have speech to text, we have text to speech, we have a whole load of technical components out there. We have a portal for this. There are many portals, but we put one on our business support website, Hello Blod, because businesses use these components. So we've got speech to text, text to speech. And my answer or my question to you, channeling the wonderful Professor Colin H. Williams, who I know many of you know in the room, is so what? Why do we do this? Or as some of the young uns of you might say, why though? Why do we do why do we create what? Do we just want a list of things going, look, our language has got this wonderful suite of tools? Um, I've been guilty of that in the past, but I'm all about the embedding and the using and the outcomes and the human computer interaction, which is basically about people using computers in Welsh. And sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're scared, and sometimes the service is bad. There's a lot of features around this. At the start of the pandemic, we went over to Microsoft Teams overnight, literally overnight. I've never seen the Welsh government move so fast. Then we realized we couldn't have bilingual meetings because there was no channel like there was on Zoom at the time. So we worked with Microsoft. And this is another example of us working with them to try and get them to understand that in the same country, people could not speak the same language or couldn't speak two languages in one meeting. So convincing him of the use case was one of the main things to get this simultaneous human interpretation in Microsoft Teams scheduled meetings. It's expanded from that now. And our work enables it for Irish or German or all languages that Microsoft supports and more actually. So we can talk about that as well when I get there eventually. So all built in, no extra cost, but it does take some skill in chairing meetings and a few of the technical setups. So what? Well, that means that we can now use more Welsh than we could at the start of the pandemic. Our language surveys internally in the Welsh Government tell us that we use Welsh less orally now than we did. That's because we're predominantly working at home, as I am this morning. But our work with Microsoft, other companies do exist, I'll talk about them later as well, has led us to working on other aspects of language technology and Copilot. I'll talk about that. Two is Microsoft's artificial intelligence work, and we can transcribe in Welsh, but only if the meeting is only in Welsh. Otherwise, you'll have to change the script language. So one of the things we're working on and are funded even is bilingual speech recognition, and that's quite hard technically. So it'll recognize English and Welsh at the same time in the same meeting, because sometimes I speak in English on pan dwi'n siarad Cymraeg is to get a bit of English in my Cymraeg, and we all do that. We code switch, and some people don't speak Welsh in the meetings I'm in. So let's have a look at what the possibilities of that are for the future. If any of you use Swift Key on your mobile phones, it's basically a predictive text based on statistical probability of this word being in the Welsh language dictionary, this being in the English language dictionary. Pretty sure it works for Irish as well. What is a bilingual workplace? How do we define that? Is it where some people work in Irish and English, and some people work in English only? How do the people who work in Irish work with the people who work in English only? Teams chat, there's translation in there. So there's lots of technology available out of the box to you today, which takes a bit of behavior changing behind it. And I'll come to that later. But before that, I want to talk about artificial intelligence and whether it is the harbinger of the death of all languages, or maybe it can offer us something. I was in a conference recently with some of you who were there in Santiago de Compostela, and one of the speakers said that English was the last lingua franca of the world, and technology will be the next. And I didn't really understand what that meant for a few days. So I got this esprit d'escalier thought, and that means that technology will be able to speak pretty much all languages. So does anyone have to learn another language or speak another language? Let's have a think about that. But I've never been one to refuse the possibilities of technology, at least to have a look at what they offer. So again, we have a partnership with the OpenAI consortium. I've introduced the consortium to to language organizations and governments all over Europe as well. So ChatGPT learns Welsh. What does that mean? It means we give them data. We work with them on transcribing um, speech corpora with the hope that that will expand the amount of speech available in Welsh, which then feeds into speech synthesis and speech recognition in well, speech synthesis definitely in terms of what I said about people with motor neuron disease earlier on in the presentation. People with motor neuron disease, as you will doubtless know, lose the ability to speak, and some of them are able to control tablets with gaze, with their eyes. So there is a lot of technology available to help them to do that in English at the moment, but that doesn't work in Welsh. Well, it does, but it only works on kludged and formulaic things. So these people who speak Welsh, who have motor neuron disease, are not able to use their Welsh when they lose the ability to speak. But our hope is we will have personalized voices. So these people will sound like themselves in English and Welsh when they lose their ability to speak using their eyes to communicate with the world. Now, I can't think of a better use case or reason for working on speech technology or speech recognition technology, speech synthesis, sorry, than that. Are we all in the wrong conversation? This isn't my work. This is a blog on by Gabriel Fairman. Are we all in the wrong? There's a lot of gnashing of teeth and wailing. Um, it's not the challenge; it's the way we talk about it. It's uncertain. What is the use case? How is the workplace of the future going to look? How is bilingualism going to look in that workplace? So the discourse we're in at the moment about AI is black and white, and I think we do a lot of that in Welsh language policies, either or, not a little bit, or a bit of greyness. Um, so it's not humans versus AI. Same as translation. You've done a whole load of work on translation technology in Ireland, and good on you. You've still got human translators. We're never going to get rid of them, nor should we want to, or even espouse a scenario where we do. So, broad statements are correct and incorrect at the same time, and we need a chat about what it means. What's the use case for AI in the workplace and in the Irish language workplace, and in the Irish government, and in the Irish corner shop, or in the Irish SME? So it can be used for good. And coming to our work with Microsoft Copilot, last week, or maybe the week before last, Microsoft offered support for Welsh and Catalan. So we can now prompt Copilot in Welsh. And all the work from the OpenAI partnership feeds into that. So have a look at it. It's quite astounding what it can do. It can simplify documents. It can summarize documents. It can write Q&As based on long documents, and it can do that in English and Welsh now. So it's really quite something. So I would embrace that as a part of user experience and the user journey for technology in the workplace. Because at the moment, and I'm moving on to a different part of the presentation, the user journey for Welsh language technology is far from always being smooth. User journey is a methodology used in human computer interaction, and we need to use it more in language policy. We need to understand exactly why people who can don't. And I'm not just talking about computerized services, I'm talking about all Irish or Welsh language services. So, what's the so what? Well, the so what is that there are a whole host of confidence problems, self-efficacy problems that Welsh speakers have. They rate their Welsh language formal skills as far lower than their corresponding English language skills. That's one of the reasons why in our new proposed Welsh language and education bill, we're looking to embed the common European framework of reference for languages in, well, in pretty much everything we do, because that's an objective measure of where someone's at. Because at the moment we get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I've got kitchen Welsh, Cymraeg Cegin sy gyda fi. I've got kitchen Welsh. No, I can't speak on the radio. I can't do that. I can't. Don't ask me to work in Welsh. I'm not fluent." And we did some psychological work on fluency a few years ago, and some quite high-end social psychologists told us you've got to get rid of the concept of fluency. Fluency is an F word, was their exact quote, because and that's the so what. People do not have self-efficacy in their own Welsh language skills, and there's a lot of history and psychology and reasons behind that, but we need to help them. So we help them by using behavioral models. This is from the UK government. cabinet office, mind space. It is used to influence behaviour through public policy. Defaulting people into contributing for pensions is D, the D in mind space. So we can default Irish or Welsh language computer interfaces into Welsh. It's been simplified to East. Now, here's a chance to use a bit of criticality of thought. Think about any scenario you have for the Irish language. Is it easy to use it? Is it timely? Does it take more time? Do other people like me do it? What's the social norming effect? Is it attractive? If not, you're going to have less people using Irish or Welsh. So that's a very simplified version. So let's have a look at the D in Mindspace defaulting and user interfaces. And this is based on some of the work we've been doing in the Welsh government, because Microsoft Office on December the 1st this year will have been available in Welsh for 20 years, and Windows as well. And the uptake is not high. And there are many reasons for that. And we want to increase the use of it. So this is a piece of comms we've put out. Up until now, English has been the default for everyone who uses Microsoft Office 365. Most people don't change default settings. That's human nature. But it also means you can read it. So what we're going to do is enable people to use it without them asking. We're going to switch Welsh speakers interfaces into Welsh, and they can opt out. Very important to leave the opt out there. So this is from the educational platform Hub, one of the biggest Microsoft tenants in Europe, I think, and we switched 80,000 user accounts to Welsh overnight, and we only had one complaint. So what? That is one example of how technology can increase the on-task time, the contact time between you and the Irish language or the Welsh language. We're going to do exactly the same in the Welsh government. We have about 6,000 staff, 1,200 of whom speak Welsh at level 4 or 5, but there's nowhere near 1,200 people using Microsoft in Welsh. So we are going to make Cymraeg easy. We've taken the East behavior change theory and we've applied it to our own computer systems. And here are some of the comms. You can have all these slides, you can have the details. We have a plan for the internal use of Welsh in the Welsh government called Cymraeg. It belongs to us all. And this is us giving Welsh to people. So in the comms, we outline, we're not blaming them for not going to look for it. Why should they go and look for Welsh? We can give it to them. So that's, again, what we're going to do, because nobody generally asks for the Welsh language service. And the mistake that we historically made was to put posters up, send CDs out, to tell people it exists. And that is a big mistake in all behavior change theory. So these behavioral economists posit that believing that information leads to action is one of the 10 most common mistakes in behavioral change programs. I'll leave you ponder that. So what we're going to do, we can make an active offer. This is often used in the health care service for language in Wales. Offer, don't expect people to ask us for it, because there are barriers to using Welsh. We can make Welsh the default. We avoid the more difficult work of changing beliefs, attitudes, and intentions. Boring technical bit for techies in the room. You can do this at the organization or the enterprise level. Find out through your personnel systems who speaks Irish at level X or Y. Add them to a group policy. The next time they log in, their laptop or PC will be in Irish. Great. Hey presto, it's an easy, easy win. And it's even easier because we've worked with a company called Stable to create Cali, the customized automated language interface, which does it all for you, and you can mount this on your networks as well. So we can put you in touch with them if you're not already, because they're quite the proactive company. And this will switch Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows, all the online stuff. So you will get a fully, well, as much Irish language experience as you can. Other stuff, boring but strategically important. We are buying a lot of ICT services. We are moving to use public money to drive the market for bilingual software. And we are doing that by giving this toolkit for bilingual user experiences, bilingual user experience, by the way, the principles of which are pretty much 100% applicable to the Irish language situation as well, and the Basque and the Maori and so on. And we put that in tender specs. And we score people on whether they understand what they can provide in Welsh or not. So there's quite a lot we can give to you. This is another thing we can give to you. Ysgrifennu triawd, trio writing. Now this talks to the point I made about people's confidence in their own Welsh language skills, and I'm coming to the end of the presentation here. I've got 2 degrees in Welsh. And I'm not saying that to boast, I'm saying it to prove the following point. I do not understand some of the written Welsh, formal Welsh that is on public services. Not because it's wrong, because it's outsourced to a decontextualized translator and then it's retrofitted to what's there. And it's decontextualized. You may have that in Ireland as well. So trio writing will, and this has been developed by our Centre for Digital Public Services, will help address that. The technical language, too formal, doesn't, just translationese, and we want to avoid this situation, which I would say is in the vast majority of Welsh speakers' behaviours. They choose English if they're in a hurry, maybe they choose English all the time, and want to understand something with confidence. So what is it? It's a collaborative approach to creating user-centered bilingual content. That's a rather jargonistic way of saying you draft both languages at once with a translator there and the policy expert there as well. I wrote a chapter in the book on this. I wrote it in English. We machine translated it into Welsh, and we're 3 of us going through it, and we changed the Welsh, we changed the English, and we changed the Welsh, and both languages were far better and far more understandable as a result of that. So the focus is on collaboration. The focus is on the user writing in plain language, and you consider both languages from the start. Don't bolt the Welsh or the Irish on, and especially don't do that and say, well, we've sent it off to translation. We'll publish it in English first, which still happens in Wales. And that is the end of the presentation. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to rush to Cardiff Airport and hopefully be with you by tonight, winds permitting. I would be happy to take any questions depending on what the chair wants to do now, or tomorrow all day long as well. But basically, you can have the slides, you can have my email, we can give you all this stuff. Take it, steal it, reuse it, repurpose it. Use our work and piggyback on it. And if you've got anything good to give us, then we'll have that as well. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd.
Gurmila Mahad, Jeremy, informative and useful and much appreciated. Have you found just interested in working with OpenAI and inputting Welsh material into the model? Have you found an improvement in ChatGPT's Welsh, as it were, arising out of that?
Single word answer, yes. We have noticed an uptick in the productivity. What we've also been doing with them is hopefully working on graphic models as well of the interpretation of pictures of create a video of the Welsh countryside in 1936 kind of thing that we've been working with them to put graphic interpretations as well. But yeah, it has increased. I mean, like many computer systems, rubbish in, rubbish out, but also more information in, higher quality output out. So yes.